Hi, my name's Alison, Sound Horticulture, but I'm here today because I really want to talk to you about Delosia coriaria. So this is what we know as the Rove beetle, and the Rove beetles are super handy, super popular for biological control in greenhouse management, all sorts of production systems, and even some hydroponic. So the reason we use them is they're fantastic for thrips control. But they also really love shorefly and fungus gnats. So they are generalist predators, and they're small little beetles. We'll show you close up in a minute. But today I'm going to hand off this one because it's shipping out. So this is a container of, I believe, 5,000, and that's going off this direction. But they're wonderful little beetles. I've got a small container here of 500, and this is what we're going to use today. I'm going to show you how to make a breeder box. So this concept of a breeder box, the idea is that, yes, you can bring them in periodically as you need them, or some growers actually really want to generate their own little ecosystem, and that's easy enough to do. So there's just a few caveats, and there's definitely a few variables, but it's really easy to do. So today what I've done is, well, I grabbed an inexpensive, lightweight plastic container this time, because our old styrofoam wasn't very clean. But there's so much shipping of styrofoam in the industry for biological control. We're really moving away from that, so we hardly even have any of these containers anymore. But this is a good example of something you can reuse in your greenhouse operation. So styrofoam boxes about this size are great because the wall is not too thick, and you can actually cut holes in the end and then put over some screening. And the screening allows a lot of airflow for these insects, because you're cooking up your own little ecosystem in here, and you want to have them protected from both heat and cold. And ultimately the best thing is to have them protected from light. So this box may go under a greenhouse bench, or it could just be in a darkened spot. So there's various ways of approaching this. I did have the tail end of a roll of thrips screening. So screening like this is used in greenhouse management to keep many small insects out. So if you'd like to learn more about screening greenhouses for insect control, feel free to reach us. I just cut a couple pieces here, and then I take them on to the ends. So I have my big air openings here. So that worked out great. And then I just started filling with a nice, rich, organic potting soil blend, because I know that's what the Delosia really like. So not only do they like a rich soil, they actually are really happy with some additional food resources. So I've got about 3 inches of soil in here, which is really good. Maybe I'm gonna add a little bit more to here. And one thing I've been thinking about is, what decaying matter, what sort of food resources would the organisms like, these little beetles? They're going to be feeding off algae. They're looking for protein. They're looking for a high protein source. They love nitrogen, and certain things just drive them into a frenzy. So different food resources can be used. I grabbed actually some nice fancy dog food this morning because I didn't have the other items I was looking for, but dog food is kind of a traditional basic blend. It's basically grain-based, and what I did was I ground that up in my food processor, nice little chunks, and this looks about the same size and shape as the koi food. Often we use koi food because koi food, or really good fish food, has a really high level of chitin in it. So chitin and cellulose are fantastic food resources for these little beetles. And I didn't have any of the crab meal with me today. I just brought my little friend, the crab, to remind me. Because this particular soil blend actually has a basis of crab and shrimp meal in it. So I'm not concerned about the lack of chitin, which is such a great food resource for the Delosia in this particular batch. But that's something to consider. So I'm just gonna layer this together. I'm just putting together a little feast. I don't want to overfeed these guys, but I've got a nice little layer. It's about a cup and a half. And I'm gonna do a little something special here too, because I know this will really help get them going. It's kind of crazy, but they are nuts about blood meal. So I'm gonna put a little light dose. I feel like I'm baking a cake. So that part is done. The other thought that came to me is that I know that they really like decaying plant material, and in order to kind of get that going, I have a little plant from a cannabis grow the other day. It's all dried out, but I'm just gonna cut these with these really awesome new scissors I got. Don't want to cut through the dirt too much, but you know, the finer something is cut up, the better. But I could throw that whole thing in, but I don't really want to. So I'm just gonna scatter this in here. You know, you could always add organic matter in the form of dried leaves, other things. So I'm just gonna kind of squish that around. So I'm not trying to do like a real heavy mix here, but I'm gonna go ahead and water this in so I don't have to put too much water on top of the Delocia. Because once they're in, I want them to just settle in. That's pretty good. So it's not soppy wet, but there's a lot of moisture in there now. Yeah, this feels good and heavy. So now I think we're in a good position to add the Delocia. And what we're gonna do, I'll give you a close-up. Come and look at these. They're pretty sweet. I don't know if you've got enough light. You can see that they are going nuts at the soil surface. So they're hungry and they're ready to get out. And they are climbing out as we speak. So this is a jug of 500 of these. So that's a kind of a heavy hit. I think I'm gonna put about 3/4 of that on here, but 500 is a good amount. So the first thing they're gonna be doing is looking for food. So they're gonna cruise down. Actually, I'm just gonna put them all in. I like that 500 count. Okay, jump off there. So again, we are not wasting anything. And maybe I'll just add a little more water. So a couple of points here. This works really great. We've got wholesale greenhouse growers that do this all the time. Some of our growers actually keep these going for months, if not years. One good tip is they can take a piece of, and preferably like black, something dark, some foam that maybe comes in some of your shipping of plugs or liners. You can cut some pieces to match this tray size and we found that putting something dark over the soil surface adds to this ability for a little algae to form. And the Delocia really like being in the dark and doing their feeding frenzy. So after about 2 weeks, you've got the lid on. Hopefully you've got a tight lid because you don't want them to start, we're in control here. As long as we have the screen, they're not climbing out. So a grower may have a whole bank of these on a rack and and stagger and set up some of these boxes on a weekly or bi-weekly basis until they have a staggering of production basically for their own operation. At the end of a couple weeks, they'll notice that they can crack the lid, remove the little black cloth if they use that, and they will see them clambering all over. So some growers actually choose to, say, skim them with almost like a little spatula or little shovel, and then take those into a container, bring them out into the grow, and actually disperse them right where they think they need the Rove beetles the most. So that's a really popular thing to do. Other growers may choose to take this container once they're really got a great population established, and then go ahead and pull off the screens and then just lay these on the bench or under the bench in the greenhouse. And from there, the Delocia will just migrate out, and if they need to, they might migrate back in. In fact, one grower at one point, I was so impressed, he had rooms, cannabis rooms, that he was heat treating. And when he was heat treating those rooms, the room would get up to 120, and the Delocia were in live soil beds. They would actually jump out and clamber out, and they were looking for an escape. They didn't want to get cooked. So they would crawl back into the box, which was at the coolest end near the door, and then the grower could safely remove them, finish treating his rooms, clean out between setups and crops, and then bring them back in. So there's a lot of creative ways to use these, and if you've got questions or you want to run through any of this, feel free to contact me. It's really a fun thing to do, quite easy to manage, and people have gained a lot from this experience. So I'd encourage it highly, the Delosha Breeder Box.